Hey guys, hope you are doing well. In this video I will be showing you guys how you can create your own custom loops in WordPress using the WP query class. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. You'll see here that I have a page set up in WordPress. This is just an empty template. This is where I'm going to be outputting my code. Alright, and now I'm just going to jump into VS Code. Here's my template file, and this is where I'm going to start inputting my code. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to create a very basic setup using the WP query class, and we're going to be fetching WordPress posts. So I'm just going to go ahead here. I'm going to create an arguments variable, which is going to be an array, and within this array we're going to have 4 parameters. First we're going to define the post type, which is going to be post. So this is just the standard WordPress post that we're going to be pulling in here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to set the post status. We want to make sure that we are loading only published posts. Okay, sorry, it's just published, not published. Alright, next thing we want is posts per page. Now you could either set this to -1, or if you want to set a limit, you can set it to 3. I'm just going to set it to -1 for now. And the last parameter I'm going to define is the order parameter. And I'm just going to set this to ascending. I believe ascending is the default order, mode. I'm just going to define it anyways, because if you want to change this, you could always change it to descending. I'll show you guys that after though. So okay, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. We got 4 parameters in our arguments. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it post query. This is going to be my actual query, which is going to load the WP query class. Alright, I'm going to pass in my args. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need at this point. So the WP query, this query is going to actually return an array. It's going to contain our data in it. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly print it to the screen so you guys can see the data that's being returned from WP query. So I'm going to do print. I'm going to wrap it in a pre-tag first just so it looks a little bit nicer or more human readable. Let's close that pre-tag, and then I'm going to do a print R, and I'm going to call post query within the print R. Okay, so let's see what that looks like on the front end. I say refresh. Okay, so here we go. So that WP query class is returning an array, and if I scroll down here, you actually see my data. All right, so here's the actual query here, right? So we have our posts, and that's going to be an array, right? And here's our actual post data. So right now I only have 1 post in my database. You'll see here, hello world. And you'll see here's the title, hello world, and then here's the content, welcome to WordPress, which is what you see in here, right? Welcome to WordPress, this is your first official post. Okay, great, so here we have our data coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment this out, and I'm going to show you 2 ways you can loop through this post query data. The first way I'm going to be showing you guys is the default way, the way that WordPress recommends doing it. So let's go ahead here. Let's open up PHP tag, and let's do if post query half posts. We're going to run a while loop. While post query half posts post query the post, right? Okay, and then we want to end the while loop, so we're going to do end while, and then we're going to call an else. So if we don't have any posts being returned, we're just going to display a simple message saying no posts were found. Okay. All right, so this is our loop in here. So within the loop, we now have access to a few internal methods provided by WordPress. So I'm going to create an h1 tag, and within the h1 tag, I'm going to call the title method, and then I'm going to create a p tag, paragraph tag, and within here, I'm going to call the content. Okay. Alright, so let's go back to our front end here. Let's do a refresh on the browser. And there we go. So there's our post being output to the browser. Right? So this is a very basic setup of how you work with WP Query if you need to create your own custom loop. Yeah, so we have the title, we have the content. There's also a bunch of other methods that you can call within this while loop that WordPress provides. You can reference the WordPress documentation for additional calls that you can call within the while loop. You could also do the permalink. So if you wanted to, do the post permalink. Let's see if I can get that to work. Ahref equals. Let's call this a tag. Let's do. Let's call this read more. And then within here, this should be the permalink, I believe. Okay. So Ahref, the permalink. Let's see if that works. Read more. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that links to the actual post. Alright, so these are some pretty common methods that you can use within the while loop, within the WordPress while loop. Okay, so this is one way that you can loop through this, this post query that we've created up here. And now I'm going to show you another way you can loop through the data without using a while loop. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead here and delete this. I'm going to delete this here as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new variable called posts, and I'm going to do post query. I'm going to call get posts on this. Yeah, get posts. So should be get posts. Yes, post query get posts. This is going to retrieve all of my posts from the WP query, and then I'm going to do a quick for each loop here so you can see what the data looks like. So for each post, as post, and then within here we can do, okay, so I'm going to do the same output I did before. So I'm going to do echo h1. So let's do an h1 tag. Alright, and then within here we're going to call posts, and we're going to do post title. Right, so this is how you would display the data in a for each loop, right? So we wouldn't use the content or the title or get permalink. We would actually get it directly from this post variable right here. All right, so I'm gonna echo the content. Okay. So this is going to be post content. Okay, so that should, why is that commuter? Post title, okay, I didn't close that. Hit save. Okay, so let's see what this looks like on the front end. Let's hit refresh. Alright, so there we have the title and we have the content being loaded. That's working perfectly. Let's get the A tag working. So let's do a href. And let's do read more. And then we're going to call posts. I'm not sure if it's post URL. I don't remember what what this one is, if it's post URL. Let me just quickly test that. No, that's not it. So let me see what it is. So if you ever want to see what the actual data structure is, you can just do a print R right within here, call it on the post, go quickly on the front end, see what we got here. How does this one work again? GUID? Oh, right, so this returns a GUID. I don't think it returns a nicely formatted URL. Okay, so let me just do GUID real quick. Let's see if that works. Comment this out. Okay, yeah, so that works, but it's not ideal. It's not really what you want to use because it's not giving you the pretty permalink. So you're gonna have to convert that GUID into a pretty permalink, but I'm not going to be covering that in this video. But so here you have an alternative of how you can actually loop through your post query data, right? So you could use the standard while loop. There's actually one thing I forgot to mention. Let me just quickly delete this. I'm just going to load in back my old or the original code, the while loop. Alright, so let me just quickly, I need to mention something here, something important that I forgot. The one thing you want to do after, if you're going to be using this, the standard while loop, there's one thing you need to call after the while loop, and that's called, and that's the WP reset post data method, I believe. That should be the right one. WP reset post data. So it's very important that you call this after your while loop. If you don't call this, it could break your other loops. It could break apart your other loops in your theme. So it's very important that you call WP reset post data right directly after you run the while loop, right? So right after the end if, call WP reset post data. So that's very important to have in there. So let me just do a quick refresh here. Okay, so that's still working. Let me just quickly set up another post as well. Add new. Okay, so this is going to be my second post. This is my second post. Publish. Okay, so let's say refresh here. Okay, great. So now we have two posts being loaded. Okay, so everything's working fine now. Just to show you quickly here, this post per page parameter here, if I were to set this to 1, you'll see that it only loads one post, right? So that's what we want. And if I set it back to -1, it'll load all of the posts, all of the WordPress posts that are in the database. And if I were to change the order to descending, that should flip the order of the posts. Yep. Okay, so there you have it. There's two ways that you can loop through the WordPress data here. So again, this is just a very basic overview of how to use WP Query to create your own custom loops within WordPress. If you need to fetch your own data, you can use it to fetch posts. You can also fetch pages. You can also fetch custom post types. So if you have like a portfolio post type, you can fetch those posts as well. And I actually do have a post type set up here, so maybe I'll quickly show you guys that as well. So I have a portfolio post type set up in here. Okay, so let me quickly do a portfolio post. This is my first portfolio post. Hit publish. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly, I'm going to quickly hit refresh here. Okay, so right now I'm still loading in the WordPress posts. So I'm going to quickly change the code here to post portfolio. Save. Let's go back. Let's hit refresh. There we go. So now I'm loading in my portfolio custom post type posts, right? So see here I have a portfolio custom post type. I created a new post for it called portfolio post 1, and that's what I'm pulling in now, right? So the WP query is actually there's actually a lot of options available for WP query. You can create very complex queries using the WP query class. So I would highly recommend checking out the official documentation to get more familiar with it. They do give you a lot of sample code here that you can reference. Yeah, so they show you, like, they'll explain here like how to work with multiple loops. It also gives you a description of why you should use WP reset post data after the while loop. Right, so you'll see here that there's a lot of properties available for WP query, a lot of parameters. There's author parameters, there's category parameters, there's tag parameters. So there's a lot you can do with WP query. It is it can get very complex depending on the type of post that you need to pull in from the database, and also the parameters that you need to pull in with it. You can do fairly complex SQL queries with WP query. If I scroll down here, let me just show you one very quickly. Right, so you could do a tax query. Right, you could also define like the relations between like different taxonomies. Right, so these queries can get fairly complex. So this is one of the great things about WordPress. It's a very flexible source code. The code base is very flexible, so there's a lot you can do using WP query. But the purpose of this video is just to give you guys a very basic overview of how WP query works and how you can fetch your own data and loop through it. Right. So again, we have the more traditional way of looping through the WordPress data, and you could also do a for each loop. So I'll just quickly show that I'll just quickly show that again right here. So if I were to remove this code, you'll pretty much get the exact same result, only this time we're using a for each. So let's go back here, let's hit refresh. There we go, so portfolio post 1, read more. That'll take me to portfolio post 1. Okay, let me put that back in there so you guys have it on the screen. So there you go. There you go, guys. So let me just quickly. So this is. I'm just gonna quickly write down here. Whoops. All right. So this is looping through WP query with a for each method. All right, and then down here. Looping through WP query with a while loop, followed by WP reset post data. Right, it's very important that you have that. It's very important that you have that after the while loop, right? So, all right, so there you guys have it. So if I were to actually refresh the browser, we should see both of these posts being loaded. Yep, perfect, right? So this is actually coming from the for each loop. This one's coming from the while loop. All right, guys, so there you have it. There's your overview of WP query. Once again, if you want to get more familiar with it, I highly advise checking out the official documentation. You'll find a lot more information on WP query here. And I've used the WP query quite a few times throughout my career. I've been working with WordPress now since 2013, so I've been using it for quite a while, and I've created some pretty complex queries using WP query, and it's a real lifesaver. Like, you don't have to worry about writing any custom SQL code. You can do a lot of very complex SQL code right within WP query. So yeah, I highly recommend checking it out. And that's it. So I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I will have some more videos coming within the weeks ahead, so stay tuned, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.